Guys, looks like that.
Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors. I'm your host, Dr. Jim Richards, joined again with my pal, Dr. Kreso Jug, and I'm here with our senior associate, Dr. Steve, and his pal, Dr. Vinny.
What's happening?
We're hanging out at training camp. If you watched or listened to the last podcast, we were in a groove, and we thought, you know what? Training camp doesn't start for another hour. We just had a workout. We're here at Charlie's Cafe at the Life by Design Center, enjoying probably Canada's best coffee. At least that's what the ads say. So, and we came up with an idea in our conversation. We're doing all the product spots as well.
A little higher there, James.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
It's like Wayne's World.
And we were talking about a market and how it's the chiropractor's job to develop the market and the work that goes into that, especially in the third paradigm model. And it led to talking about my original practice and how I fully believe that nobody was ever going to leave my practice. I mean, I was 1,000% convinced that nobody was going to leave because I did it different, that, I had it figured out. In fact, if you remember this, actually, you were still in school, I think, Kreso, at the time.
Probably.
So we were doing our renovations at this new practice, and I took the windows like in here and I covered them in paper, in like that, brown craft paper. And I wrote on the outside of the paper, so everybody's walking by, I think it said something amazing is coming. Get ready. And, I would hear people outside the window all the time when I was in there, chipping up the floors and doing all these renovations. I wonder what it is. I wonder what it's going to be. And there was this really good buzz pre-social media, rotary phones. And so and
Tin cans and strings.
I'll explain that to you young guys later. Yeah.
We used to have to call one another.
Yes. We picked up the phone. Yeah, we had to dial. And,
I had to look my wife in the face and be like, "Hey, do you want to?" You had to look my wife in the face and be like, "Do you want to go out with me?"
Yeah. In person. That's risky.
Not this.
Yeah, that's risky though.
Gosh,
That's risky.
no.
And so here's the thing. And he's either Croatian.
I know.
And so we opened up and we ripped the signs down, and I was like, here it goes, here it comes. Like, people are going to be flooding in. Oh yeah, I had the graphics on the window, chiropractor, it was Cafe of Life, and I had the phone number and, crickets.
Nobody.
And not only that, I would hear people walking by and saying things like, oh, it's just a chiropractor.
Yeah.
Right? And it was so, devastating. I'd put basically every dollar I had into building this place. And, there just was not that pull. And so I assumed, okay, well, you know what? They just don't know what I do yet. And once they know what I do, because it's so amazing, it's so life-changing, I explain it so well.
Well, that's true. They don't know what you do.
And I, explain it so well, they're going to say, wow, holy smokes, this is amazing. I had no idea. I'm going to go tell every single person I know, and I'm never going to stop. I'm going to come forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we had people start care, and then they stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just this shocking revelation to me that
you run a business and customers leave a business? I
didn't think of it like that. I just didn't think it was a business. I thought chiropractic was different, that it was unique, that the messaging was unique, that, the value proposition was so different and every other chiropractor must have it wrong. If they just knew what I knew, they would do what I do.
Right.
And that just turned out not to be true. And the purpose of this podcast is to say, look, there's probably a lot of doctors out there, not just new grads and young doctors, but doctors who really believe in what they do and feel like they're doing an amazing job, and people are still leaving your practice. How do you handle that, Kreso?
You understand. Well, you adopt the mindset that it's not happening to you. They're not doing it to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was
not personal.
I think that was a big one for me. I think things changed in my practice when I looked at my day sheet every day and started to feel really blessed and lucky that people chose to show up to get care on that day.
Right.
And I didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow with them.
Right.
I don't know who's going to have a baby or who's going to move or who's going to die or who's going to have some other thing happen in their life where this is not going to be an option for them. That was a big one for me where I was like, I'm just lucky to see you and I'm going to, enjoy this moment and deliver really great care, and I'll make the recommendations for next time.
So fast forward almost 20 years,
Yeah.
15 years for you, I believe.
Yep, 14.
Being honest with our audience, how do you feel now about people leaving your practice and dropping out of your practice?
It still hurts. I think it always will. I think it always will, because you look at those inactive files and you're like, shit, whatever happened to this person?
Yeah.
But it's just a part of it.
Yeah, there's it's to go back to something you actually taught me just about life in general. Wisdom hour with Kreso.
Sage advice.
The Croatian sage.
With a little bit of rage.
The Croatian sage with the rage. All right, the rage and sage incation. Okay, we'll come back to that later. That's a different brain.
So
my point is, you taught me that the nature of things. This idea that some things, they're just the nature. So
it is what it is.
It is what it is. And let's say I see this a lot with just people, and it's really helped with my interactions with people over my lifetime and all relationships. That trying to change other people, trying to make people do what you want them to do, versus recognizing that, and not that I don't care, not that we're giving up, but that we also understand that some things are just the nature of things. I can't, I can't magically make this cup disappear.
Well, yeah.
Right? It's just not the nature of it. Okay? And so the same thing is, if somebody is a certain way, understanding that that's just the nature of that person doesn't mean I have to change them. I can accept that that's just the nature of that person. That doesn't mean I have to have a relationship with them. Those are my choices.
But you are giving up. I like that. You have given up.
I'm letting go. Letting go.
Well, that's the modern way to say it, right?
Yeah,
I'm giving up the idea that I'm here to fix the whole world.
Right.
And I'm just going to present what I can do in a really awesome way. And if you want it, great, let's work together. And if you want it for a certain period of time, that's acceptable to me, great, let's work together.
Yeah.
And if you're outside of those parameters, nice to meet you. I'm here when you're ready.
Well, I struggled there was a very dark period in practice, that, I've probably talked about it before, but maybe not at length. And where I really struggled with kind of taking a step back, and I feel like, this time around, looking at the world and all the things that are changing, had I not changed my mindset from 10 or 15 years ago, I think now, this would have been an extremely challenging, 2-year period. But back then, 10 years ago, I looked at the world and all I saw was what was wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And I just looked at it and I was like, man, how can I fix all this? And this is my responsibility. And, you've got to change the world, one spine at a time.
Yeah, so
there's just too much pressure.
But here's the thing, you're not the only one, right? There's a reason why there's these horrible sayings like the bitter truth and cold, hard reality. Why is the truth bitter and why is reality cold?
It just is what it is.
Because it doesn't mesh with this delusional way that we think that it should be.
Right.
And when you can accept that things are the way that they are.
Right. The nature of things. A is A.
A is A.
A is A.
Right. You're right. The cup will never disappear.
Right. The cup is this cup. Right.
And it can only be that cup.
And it can only be this cup.
It can't transform into a car. Right. And it can't save your life. It's just a cup.
Right. And as direct as that is, that completely changed my mindset and practice and life in every relationship, to the point where, I remember when I first met Dana, and you remember this because she had to consult with Kreso basically to figure out how to interact with me. She's like, I don't get it, right? You're so cold. And it turned out, obviously, she realizes I'm not cold or wasn't cold. I just care a lot about certain things, and everything else I don't care about. Not that I have a negative connotation about it. I'm neutral, right? If you leave my practice, if that's what you need to do, I am okay with that.
Yeah, we're good.
And just be okay with the fact I may never think about you again. And that's okay. That's not a negative. I've just moved on.
I'm just on to the next thing,
right? Next. And I don't know if it was Reggie Gold or if it's another speaker. And this was helpful as well. It might have been Sigafus. This idea of a burning building. And the building's burning down, and you go to the first door, there's 100 doors, and you knock and you go, hey, the building's on fire. The building's on fire. And the person comes out and they start having a conversation. Well, I don't really think it's on fire. So I'm just going to, are you going to keep knocking on this door? Or are you just going to go to the next one? Building's on fire. No, it's not. Next. Building's on fire. Next. And you're just going to work your way through, because you can't spend all that time on people that aren't interested in your life in general. And we all waste a lot of time, or at least I sure did, even in relationships where it just shouldn't have happened, right? It just should have been done a long time before. Yeah. And I could have moved on and been focused on something that was more contributory to my values in my life. And so let's talk about this, and we'll use this as kind of the wrap-up point and takeaway. What strategies have you used, or do you use, or put in place safeguards to help you manage this in your practice specifically?
Like this type of thing?
Yeah, this idea of people leaving and being okay with that. Do you have any kind of steps or systems or things that have helped you?
Yeah, so the first thing you have to be is aware, right? You have to be aware that you are getting emotional about the choices that other people are making that are outside of your control. So when I feel that, it's as silly as it sounds, it's just an affirmation to be like, you're blessed that there's, whatever 100 people on your schedule for today, and just deliver really good care and do what you can control.
Right.
And that's it. That's all I tell myself.
Yeah. The two that I think about, we've talked about them before, and I think they're very important. Number one is acceptance mindset, right? You set these standards, and this goes for your life. Just kind of set, like, I'm not saying the barrier's so high that, nobody can get in my life. Right. What I'm saying is I have this kind of minimum standard of here's what I expect. Yeah. And, in terms of this is your clinical outcome, these are your clinical results, here's what we're going to do. And if you can't meet that minimum standard, then we just shouldn't start, because you're minimizing the chance that, you have a person that isn't a good fit for you to work with in your relationship.
Just add to that the reason that there's that standard is because that they're not going to get the result that they want either. It's for
of
their
course,
benefit.
it's a win-win. Of course, it's not just so there's a clinical side to it, right? They're not going to get the result,
right?
And I'm not okay with that,
because you're making it sound like it's just about you. And you
no,
I don't want people to
of course. No, it's not just about me. I know that if I only see you 6 times and I need to see you 30 times, then you're not going to get a result, and you're not going to be happy, and then I'm not going to be happy that we didn't get the result. And my end goal here is that people are getting amazing results, and we're creating that type of community here, and that's number one. And then the second side of that, at the other end of that, so this is the front end. Yeah. At the other end, the other major helpful piece is having a system. So what do you do when somebody says, I'm going to stop care? And without a system, that's where I found all the emotions would come up. You're like, oh, well, you feel that resistance.
Yeah.
And having a system makes it easy. You just pull the trigger, right? You just flip the switch. No different on day 2 when you say, well, I don't think it's going to be a good fit. Let me walk you to the front. Yeah. Your test results are good for 90 days, blah, 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 blah. You got a system. Same thing when somebody says to the front desk staff, I think I'm going to stop care, or I'm going to put my time on hold. The front desk staff says, absolutely no problem. That's the number one, absolutely no problem. Because you know what they're expecting? Resistance. And you know what we give them? 0. Absolutely no problem. Let's go ahead and. Yeah. And we have a special visit. We have a conversation. And the conversation is really simple. Hey, what's up? And I'll tell you, 30% of those cases, because we actually have a system, the conversation leads them back into care and to continue the process. It wasn't that they wanted to stop care. It was that they had something else that was stopping it. So being willing to have the discussion with people, and I think a lot of people aren't, because they don't want to they feel like it's going to be a confrontation, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes people just need to be heard, and you're not hearing what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And so having a system in place to flip the switch and trigger that conversation. And then the other ones, guess what? A lot of times, we got a case this week where something was going on personally. She said, I'm going to tell so many people about what you do. This is just, I can't do it right now. We have a family emergency. Absolutely no problem. Your test results are good for 90 days. When you come back, we'll jump right back in, hug, shake hands, and,
She had nothing but a positive experience.
Right, exactly. Nothing but a positive experience.
Exactly.
Versus if you're giving resistance, not only is it going to be something that you probably don't feel good about if you're conscious enough about it, and number 2, that person's not going to feel good about it. So lots to unpack there, guys, and I think all of these components we talked about today are going to be really, really helpful for docs, new and old. And as always, thank you for listening to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic.